taste. That's all Jerry wanted, was for Audrey to take a little taste of the pie. Why wouldn't she take the pie? The riddle of the pie is still a mystery to this day. Why on earth did Audrey not want to take a bite of that pie that night? Yet she eventually did, but Jerry's still obsessed over the mystery. Why didn't she take the pie that night? What was it? Well, of course, we'll get to it. But the pie episode was another good one. Another, classic, I would say. Well, I keep saying all these episodes are classics, but another great episode for sure. With a great story, and of course, obviously, an inside joke because of Poppy. You might know some pretty sloppy poppies out there who aren't clean and don't wash their hands before going back to work, as it should. And of course, Jerry being a germaphobe, well, we'll get into it. So, the story of the pie is, well, the main mystery, of course, which we never solved and figured out, was at the beginning of the episode, Jerry is on a date with his girlfriend Audrey at Monk's, and he get apple pie for dessert, and he's trying to get her to take a piece, and she's like, no, I don't want it. He said, oh, why not? He goes, it's not that, I like it, but it's not that, it's not that. Well, try it. And she was just like, come on, try it. A little taste. She's just like fearing for her life. And it's like, come on. But she wouldn't take a pie. Yet they did not know. Then, back to the apartment, of course, whenever Jerry was talking to George about it, Kramer tells Elaine, I think it was, that he saw there's a mannequin down at this one store that looks exactly like her. Well, they go down to the to the shop, and sure enough, yes, there was a mannequin in there that looks exactly like Elaine. And they're asking the salesperson, who seemed very it seemed like she was literally ignoring Elaine. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Elaine's like, this mannequin looks exactly like me. She's like, you're crazy. And basically, her and Elaine were not getting along, and she wanted nothing to do with it. Yet, they still were obviously felt like it was it was. They were they were literally torturing Elaine about this mannequin. But obviously, the lady still refused to admit to Elaine that this mannequin looks like her. George, though, was getting ready to go on another interview with this big company for a job. So he was looking for a suit while he was there. And he found this really nice suit, but it was pretty expensive. But then the saleswoman, Natasha, told him that that suit was going to be half price starting on Friday for a big sale they were having. Well, moments later, this other guy who looked a heck of a lot like George walks in. He sees the suit, and George tries to talk him out of it, because George is trying to protect the suit so that way he can get it when it goes half price. So he tells the guy that there's going to be a half-price sale starting Monday. But then the lady corrects George, tells him it's Friday. But George, of course, was upset because he wanted to, he's trying to, protect the suit because he liked to wear it for his interview. But, of course, basically the guy was like, I'm, he's like, he's coming back getting that suit. So George was on guard. After Elaine leaves, though, George is sitting there, obviously, guarding the suit. And the saleswoman actually takes off the dress that the mannequin that looks like Elaine was wearing, which of course, Elaine finds out and it pisses her off even more later. But anyways, also a story there in this episode was Kramer had this bad back itch. But the cashier amongst Olive, she had really good nails, and she was a really good back scratcher. So her and Kramer kind of start up a little bit of a thing together. Jerry, of course, goes out to eat dinner at Audrey's father's restaurant called Poppy's, which I didn't realize. So I read the trivia on IMDb that it actually was the same restaurant that was used as Pfeiffer's back in the Shoes episode. Of course, no pasta primavera was sold, but of course, someone else lost their appetite in this episode. So, Jerry was introduced to Poppy, the owner, who was Audrey's father. Audrey also hypes up the apple pie, which again Jerry's still obsessing over the fact that why didn't you eat the pie, which we still never found out in the end, of course. But then Jerry goes to the bathroom, and while he's in the bathroom, he sees Poppy, who just came out of the stall, and he said he was going to prepare the dinner personally himself for the two of them. But then Poppy walked out of the bathroom, and Jerry's like, huh? What? Wait a minute, what? Did he just... And obviously, he caused Jerry to lose his appetite and not be hungry anymore, because Poppy didn't wash his hands. So Jerry, very disturbed, goes back out and sits down. Obviously, he's in a dilemma. He doesn't want to be rude and not take the food, but he's like... He looks over and he's like, and Poppy's like kneading the dough, happy as a clam, like, yeah. And then Jerry's just so disturbed. He's like, those hands are all over my food. They haven't been washed. And again, of course, we learn more and more that Jerry's a germaphobe. But here's the thing: Jerry can be a germaphobe, yes, but this instance right here, I completely understand. So the food comes out, and the same thing. They're trying to get Jerry to try it. He's like, exactly how Audrey was about the pie. So then, of course, Audrey and Jerry got into a fight, and Audrey thinks Jerry did that to get back to her for not eating the pie. So, of course, that leads to another downfall in this failing relationship, basically. And then, of course, Kramer runs into a dilemma. His itch disappears, and he doesn't need Olive anymore. But he hates to break her because she won't stop scratching him, and he doesn't want to be rude and hurt her feelings. Elaine, though, of course, was out eating again, and someone came up to him, and he goes, I've seen you before. She goes, no, you don't. And she's like, yeah, you're wearing the G-string with the bra with the points and whatnot. So she realizes it's the mannequin. Her and Jerry, of course, go back to the store and this time the mannequin's literally laying on her stomach on top of another mannequin in a position of like her butt's getting smacked. In which that finally sets Elaine off, and then of course the lady, says she's gonna go get the manager and whatnot. So when she was away, Jerry and Elaine grab the mannequin and they run off with the mannequin to get it out of the store. I don't know what they did. I think they held on to it after that. Well, yeah, they did, because of what happened in the closing scene. Of course, we'll get to that. But anyways, meanwhile, George was still guarding that suit with its life because he knows that other guy, his name was Bob, wanted to get the suit too. So on the Friday morning of the sale, the doors open and Bob runs to where the suit is. He can't find it. George, though, being slick as he was, hid it in a different spot. And of course, Bob was pissed off and said, he goes, I'm going to get back at you for this. So George thought he was in the clear with this suit. And then Jerry, of course, meets up with Elaine, and then she says that, well, no, this is at the end, I'm sorry, but meets up with Elaine for lunch. George comes in, praise himself with the suit, but then they start hearing this swooshing sound. And they're like, what's up with this? But then they realize there was only hearing it whenever George was walking. And Elaine realizes that it's something with the fabric that's like rubbing against his thighs that's causing the suit to make a swooshing sound. But George starts freaking out because the guy he's interviewing him apparently is a nutcase. He said that the last guy apparently got fired because of the way he whistled, his nose whistles when he breathes. So George is like, he's that crazy, he's not gonna want to hire me. So he's freaking out, and then he goes to the interview, and of course he's walking nervously. They're at a restaurant. They're walking nervously through the restaurant. And then, of course, finally he admits later about his suit, and the guys there were laughing, saying, you actually thought we were not going to hire you because of your suit whooshing? He goes, well, he says, I heard the last guy got fired because of his nose was whistling. But then the guy cracks him and goes, no. He said, the last guy got fired because he wasn't a team player, and that's what we're very, uptight about. So George is like, oh, well, no problem there. So they have dinner, And then again, the dessert gets brought out. And the guy says the chef made it especially for you. And George's like, oh, that's nice. Until he turns around, and around the corner he sees that the chef was in fact Bob, the guy who he had beaten to get the suit. And George is like, oh boy. And then of course they're trying to get George to take a bite of the dessert, and George is going like, and of course, obviously he was being a team player, he didn't get the job. But at least he didn't get sick. Meanwhile, though, Jerry had overheard that Audrey was in Monk's earlier and had a piece of apple pie. So he goes back to Poppy's to confront her, and obviously, she's still mad at him, thinking that Jerry only didn't eat Poppy's food to get back at her. So, of course, she wanted nothing to do with him. And then a health inspector walked in which Jerry launched a complaint against Poppy for. And then he asked for who's Poppy. And then Poppy goes, I'm a Poppy. He goes, better come with me. And then Audrey goes, what do they want from Poppy? And Jerry goes, well, Poppy is a little sloppy. And Poppy, of course, got in trouble because he doesn't wash his hands. So then, of course, we get back to Kramer and Olive. Kramer has to break it to Olive that, hey, he doesn't want to continue doing this because obviously, his back scratch is gone. So he tries to get out of it by saying, well, there's someone else. And he tries to use the Elaine mannequin as that somebody else. In which Olive doesn't buy into it, saying that they're just friends. Well, then Kramer goes out to the car, tries to start making out with the mannequin, but the mannequin starts to break. And then the last scene, Elaine came in, which Olive gave her a dirty look. And of course, Jerry admits that, he's never going to solve the riddle of the pie, and it's a mystery that they'll just never know. And we still will never know. I mean, it came from an incident that for real Jerry had, that he was obsessed over the fact that, he was angry at the fact that a girl he went out with once on a date just wouldn't take a piece of the pie. It's like, why wouldn't it take the piece of the pie? Like, it's just stupid, but he just still never figured out why. So Elaine sits down, though, and says she got a letter from a friend of hers in Chicago saying she was out shopping and she saw a mannequin that looked just like her. And she's like, where are they coming from? What if there's more? And it cuts to some random company, and sure enough, the person behind the mannequin, which is model TR6, is Ricky. If you don't remember Ricky, he was that guy that Elaine met on the subway at the cigar store Indian, who showed up at Frank Costanza's house with a bouquet of TV shows from the TV guide that Elaine had left on the subway. And of course, the TV guide of Frank Costanza that got all cut up and that he was pissed about because apparently Frank Costanza collected TV guides. He made the model because he's obsessed with Elaine, creepily. And that's how the episode ends. That's the pie episode. Again, just why did Audrey want to take the pie? Like, we never found out the reason why. And of course, creepy Ricky, he was in love with Elaine. He decided to make mannequins out of her. Creepy indeed. But that's the pie. Couple little fun facts. Suzanne Snyder, who plays Audrey, if you don't remember her, she actually also appeared back in the limo episode as Eva, the person who was obsessed with Donald O'Brien, who George posed as to get the limo, and also Christine Dunford, who played Natasha, the saleswoman, was actually also the same lady who played Elaine's friend Leslie back in the baby shower episode. So she appeared in that episode also. Yeah, that's pretty much the only fun facts I have for this. So yeah, that's the pie episode again. Another good episode. We move on now to the next episode, The Stand-In, and we meet a reoccurring character that I actually feel like doesn't get as much appreciation as he should, but definitely one of my favorite reoccurring characters gets introduced in the next episode. We'll talk about that though when we get to The Stand-In. So guys, once again, what were your thoughts on the pie episode? Do you even understand why Audrey didn't take a bite of the pie? Was it because that she didn't want to, take a taste since Jerry already took a taste from it or whatnot? I don't know what the heck it was. Why didn't Audrey want to take a bite of the pie? Do you all, are any of you guys know any poppies? Because anybody who I notice walks out of the bathhouse, wash their hands, I go, well, that's another poppy for you. But of course, guys, lesson learned here, definitely wash your hands, especially if you work in a restaurant. But definitely leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Slap a like on the video. Subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on Twitter at DemandAirboy93. Until then, guys, I'm checking out. I will see you all later. Have a great rest of your evening. And peace out, everybody.
No